Let me start there, and then we'll work to the James Harrison signing and what's going on in New York. Rosen saying, hey, I'd rather go to a team that's not the best team but a better fit, and then a report out of Cleveland going, don't worry, they don't want him anyway. It almost feels like a game of chicken. How do you think this plays out, Peter?
I don't know. We got 4 months to figure it out. I mean, the draft quite literally is 4 months from this week, and that's why it's silly to get all excited about all these things right now. Because we only know about 15% of the story. We don't even know if Sam Darnold is coming out. All of these things that make for a lot of fun things to talk about and to write about. Look, there is no perfect quarterback prospect in this draft. We thought there might be at the start of the year, but absolutely unequivocally, there isn't one. Everybody watched Josh Rosen outplay Sam Darnold head-to-head when they played, a month ago. But at the end of the day, that's not going to make the decision either. I think the one thing that everybody needs to sort of keep in mind, okay, the quarterback who's played the best, who probably is the most competitive, who's had the most success on the field of all these guys we're talking about, is Baker Mayfield. And because he's only an inch taller than Russell Wilson, everybody is saying, oh, my God, you can't pick him high. Well, all I know is this. I'd much rather pick a 6'1¼ quarterback very high than a quarterback who I had some real lingering questions about entering the draft in a year, by the way, when the Cleveland Browns absolutely categorically must take a quarterback. And I'll leave you with this, Doug. I talked to John Dorsey after he got the job. He has seen 6 games of Baker Mayfield this year, including one in person at Kansas. I believe he likes Baker Mayfield. And let's just remember, who says you have to take the quarterback number 1 overall? Why can't you take whoever it is? I don't even know who these guys are, basically. Why can't you take Saquon Barkley and then either with your second pick overall, which may be the 5th or 6th pick in the draft, the Houston pick, then you take, say, a Mayfield, or even go down a little bit further if you're confident he's still going to be there. But there's so much time left. I think a lot of this stuff we're seeing now basically is kind of smoke signals.
Help me out here. How did Bill Belichick, how did he undervalue the value of Jimmy Garoppolo? That's the only thing I can think of. I know
he only had 2 starts. He only had 2 starts. And the only guy who got legitimate value, okay, when he was let go by the Patriots, the only quarterback when he left the Patriots who got legitimate value was Matt Castle. And Matt Castle spent the rest of his NFL career, and now, I mean, look, I'm not, he's a decent NFL backup, but that's what he is. And when he got traded to Kansas City and made big money, the bottom line is it didn't work. So how do you know what Jimmy Garoppolo is after 2 starts? I think a lot of people really, really liked him, but they just didn't know. But also, Doug, I believe this story is yet to be written. Bill Belichick on draft weekend was letting everybody know, hey, I'm not trading Garoppolo. So what in the world happened between then and Halloween? Okay, why did they hang on to Garoppolo for insurance for the rest of the year instead of trading him for what's probably going to be about maybe the 40th pick in the draft or 38th pick, whatever it'll be? And I don't think Bill Belichick went out and truly measured the market.
Yeah,
if
so,
he did,
so Peter,
he would have traded him to Cleveland for more.
Peter, you've forgotten more about this league than I will ever know. So would you be willing to venture a guess as to why would they give him away and not really get his market value?
My guess, and that's all this is, my educated guess is that there's absolutely no way that Jimmy Garoppolo and his agent, Don Yee, would have signed long-term with Cleveland at the end of this year. And they basically would have invited the Jets, the Bills, the Dolphins, the whoever's to come and get Jimmy Garoppolo for 2 ones. I mean, that's my, think about it. If you trade Jimmy Garoppolo to San Francisco, it's very likely that with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch on 6-year contracts, and you know that you're going to be coached exceedingly well, it's very likely that you're going to sign long-term with the San Francisco 49ers and become the true heir to Montana and Young, which they just have never been able to find. But if he goes to Cleveland, he's going to be on the move. He's not going to sign long-term.
Right.
I think that's what I would guess.
Okay, James Harrison signs with the Patriots. There's so many different levels to this. I don't know. Like, I understand James Harrison can, but should you sign with the Patriot when you're a Steeler? Like, you're the all-time sack leader in Steeler history. And isn't this classic Belichick, right? The tweaking. I don't know how much James Harrison helps them, but it's just another thing to put in the back of the mind of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who think they can't beat the Patriots. Now the Patriots have all the secret codes to what the Steelers do.
There's 2 points here. Number one, if you're James Harrison and you've been let go by the Steelers, I think 3 different times, but maybe 4, if they have let him go that many times, and on December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas, they do it again, I'm just trying to put myself in his shoes. If I were in his shoes, I've been buried the whole year. Hey, look, they've got good young edge rushers. So I'm not saying that the Steelers strategically made a mistake either in who they're playing or in cutting them. But I'm just saying, you put yourself in James Harrison's shoes. You're one of the great Steelers of this era, far and away. Everybody on that team, tremendous respect for you. And the Steelers, for the 3rd or 4th time, show you the door. So is the writing on the wall or what? In my opinion, that's how I would feel. And I would say, I want to stick it to them. I don't care what the fans think. And, sometimes really, fans, in my opinion, are extremely short-sighted and don't often put themselves in the shoes of the player. That's number one. And I think the second thing is, if you're James Harrison, you might only have 3 or 4 games left in your life. What would you like to do? Would you like to go to pick a team, the Detroit Lions, and end the season, or would you like, wherever, or maybe to a wild card team, or would you like to go play for the greatest coach of your era with the greatest quarterback maybe of all time? I mean, how is anybody mad at James Harrison for making a choice to go to one of your arch rivals after the team that you had shows you the door?
Last thing, Peter, before we let you go, Earl Thomas is still under contract, has not been cut by the Seattle Seahawks, but he did make it known to everybody that if the Seahawks do kick him to the curb, as he said, he'd love to be a Dallas Cowboy. You and I on my radio show have spoken about the gut job we think that is still coming Seattle. But have you ever seen this for a team that's still alive in the playoff hunt after eliminating their opponent, a player go over to a coach and say, hey, man, come get me, and then reaffirm it to the media? You ever seen that before?
I mean, I'm sure it's happened. I guess it shocked me. It just shocked me. And I guess, nobody seems to be all that outraged by it. And maybe, hey, I'm 60 years old. I'm yesterday's news. But all I can say is, if my team was in the pennant race and I went up to the coach of the other team and told him, hey, don't forget me, if I'm on the street or whatever, it just strikes me as wrong. And again, I got a bunch of mail about this because I was pretty strong in my column this week about how I didn't like it. And a bunch of people said, who cares? And I think my reaction would be is, what if Pete Carroll, walking off the field, saw Jerry Jones, put his arm around Jerry Jones and said, hey, Jerry, you know what? I might get whacked after the season. Remember me, if you change coaches. And I'm not saying Pete Carroll's going to get whacked.
Right.
All I'm saying is that's how you compare this. I just think it's just, especially with one of your team leaders, I just thought it was wrong.
Yeah, and it reaffirms everything we've heard about Seattle and how dysfunctional that locker room actually has been this year. The website is themmqb.com. He's the one and only editor of it, Peter King. Peter, great stuff. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, Doug.
Coming up next, I'll tell you why the Giants are close.